Okay, so we're gonna take a look at this problem where we're finding the derivative that includes an unknown function, right? And we're given 2 points, essentially one on the function itself and one on the derivative. All right, now we don't know the function f of x, and the goal here is not to find the function, right? The goal is simply to find g prime of 1. Okay, so we're gonna start first by taking the derivative. Now I'm gonna do this 3 different ways. Right, the first way is simply starting here and using the quotient rule. Right, so when I do that, take the square of the bottom, so that'll be x cubed. Right, take the derivative of the numerator. So here we're going to use the chain rule. Okay, so chain rule says derivative of the outer function, which is the root function, we get 1/2. Leave the inside alone. Subtract your power by 1. So we get negative 1/2. All right, now we move inside and take the derivative of that. So the derivative of the inner function is 2x minus f prime of x. All right, again, don't know what that function is. All I know it's differentiable at 1. Okay, and leave the denominator alone. All right, so minus, leave the numerator alone. And then take the derivative of the function in the denominator. Again, apply the power rule. 3/2 times x to the 1/2. Okay, and then we can just plug in 1, right? G prime of 1, we get 1/2, 1 squared, f of 1 is negative 2. That is to the negative 1/2, 2 times 1, f prime of 1 is 3, times 1 to the 3/2, square root, x squared, 1 squared, minus f of 1, and then times 3/2 times 1 to the 1/2, all over 1 cubed. All right, and now the problem now, we did the hardest part, the calculus part. Now it's time to simplify. Okay, so here let's figure out, there's no more big fraction here. That 1 cubed is just 1, so we can kind of ignore that since we're dividing by 1. So now we move on here. So we have 1 in the denominator, we're going to have 2. This is 1 plus 2 is 3 to the negative 1/2 means we can write it in the denominator. And here we'll have 2 minus 3 is negative 1 times 1, so negative 1. Okay, and then over here we'll have root 3. We'll have a 3 root 3 over 2. All right, and getting a common denominator here being 2 root 3. So that already has the common denominator. This one we multiply by root 3, which gives us 9. Right? Root 3 times root 3 is 3, times this 3 here is 9. 10 over 2 root 3. And then we reduce our fraction to get negative 5 over root 3. Okay, and that is how you would take the derivative of this function. Now, this is one approach we can take that involves the quotient rule. All right. Now, there's different ways you can approach this problem and still get the correct result. All right, so let's say we started off here, and looking at this function, I actually rewrote it as x squared minus f of x over x cubed. Right, that 3/2, that's the square root, the denominator, right? 2 square roots, we can just write it under 1 big square root. All right, and now I can take the derivative here, right? Now here, we take a different approach, all right? We start off with the chain rule, right? The outer function is the root function. So again, we start off by applying the power rule. Leave the inside alone. power is -1/2. Okay. All right, and now we work into the inner function. Now to do the inner function, we need a quotient rule. So that will be square of the denominator multiplied by the derivative of the numerator. So that is 2x minus f prime of x. Leave the denominator alone. And then we move on, leave the numerator alone, times the derivative of the denominator, which is 3x squared. Okay, and now we can go ahead and plug in 1. Right, one thing I am going to do here is I'm going to write this as a root, and to take care of this, because 1/2 is a square root, to take care of the negative, we take the reciprocal. So we'll have 1 cubed, 1 squared, minus f of 1, which is -2, times 2 times 1, minus f prime of 1, which is 3, times 1 cubed, minus 1 squared, minus f of 1, which is -2, and 3 times 1 squared, all over 1 to the 6th power. Okay. All right, so here we'll have, again, now it's a simplification problem, right? Cube of 1 is 1, square root of 1 is 1. So we just have 1 in the numerator. Down here we'll have 1 plus 2 is 3, but don't forget the square root of that, and then we have the 1/2. All right, so that takes care of this part. Multiply 1 to the 6 is just 1, so division by 1, don't have to write the fraction anymore. Here we'll have 2 minus 3, -1, and then over here we'll have 1 plus 2 is 3 times this 3 here is 9 times 1 is 9. Over 2 root 3, and then we get back our result, -5 over root 3. Okay, so again, different approach to the problem, but if the derivative rules are applied properly, you get the same result. Now let's do this one more way. All right, so what I'm going to do is, for this third way, is I'm going to interpret this problem, right? Instead of like the first time I just went ahead and started doing the chain rule. And then the next one I wrote it as a bigger square root. Now one thing you can do that kind of avoids the quotient rule is you can write it as a product. And the way you do that is, we write that down here, is to take the denominator and whatever power it may be, change it to a negative. But now it's in the numerator, right? We're just using our rules of exponent. And then the square root, that stays the same. Okay, and now you can treat this as a product, right? So we can say, all right, g prime of x, right? Power rule here, take the derivative of x to the -3/2. So we get -3 over 2, x to the -5/2. Leave the other function alone. All right, plus, now leave that first function alone. And then take the derivative of this, right? Square root, right, to the 1/2, power rule. -1/2. Power rule combined with the chain rule. Don't forget to take the derivative of the inside. 2x minus f prime of x. All right, and now we just plug in, right? G prime of 1, -3/2, 1 to the -5/2, square root of 1 minus f of 1 is negative 2. 1 to the negative 3/2, 1/2, 1 squared, minus, I guess that's squared 2, minus f of x, which is negative 2. And this one is to the negative 1/2 times 2 times 1 minus 3. All right, and again now, simplify. All right, so over here, that's 1, negative 3/2, square root of 3 over 2. All right, that's that first part. Over here, what do we got? We got 1/2. This is root 3, but to the negative 1/2 puts it in the denominator. All right, and over here we got 2 minus 3, negative 1. And again, same expression that we've had before. So this will become 9 minus 1 over 2 root 3, which is negative 10 over 2 root 3, which reduces again to negative 5 over root 3. All right, and that is the third way to approach this problem. Okay, so again, as long as you have a good understanding of the rules, you can think of these problems in several different ways. Thank you.